Alright, so, talking about Looper. Movie definitely gave me a different emotional response than most. And it was one of the newer movies that I watched. This movie very much was hard to understand. I've got to be honest about that. It was not the easiest movie to understand. And there's two scenes I want to talk about. The diner scene between the older and younger versions of the main guy in the story, and the ending. The diner scene is important because it talks about the differences of selfishness. Selfishness when you're young, and selfishness when you're old. It feels like it's not out of context in the generation it's talking about. But it feels like what the older version has learned isn't there right now. Like, I'll say this, I feel like this film is very much in its own bubble of the world. And a very centered story that is... One moment, let me double check something. Okay, I'm just making sure it's still recording there. It honestly feels like the story is built on... I mean, the main character who's older is building this idea that he's learned something. But he still has that selfishness. Okay. The older version of our main character is pretty much just as selfish as the one he's noticing of his younger self. He's sitting at the diner talking with him, telling him about everything. Your face is backwards. That's the first thing he says. But you're saying that to your younger self. First thing I acknowledge when I hear that and understand is like saying, I don't believe you're real. First off. Like, that's what he's basically insinuating and saying with that kind of answer. That he's saying, like, I can't believe I'm here, that I have to see something that I have already worked on. But the difference is he never really worked on it. That's how he knows it's backwards. He doesn't understand it. A person who's gotten over a selfishness like that doesn't see it as backwards. When you see it again, you know exactly what it is. You don't have a problem looking at it and saying, damn, I'm still that selfish. Or, I've been that selfish and I've learned to contain it somehow. I've learned to get away from that and not establish everything built on that selfishness. And that's where the story really hit me, honestly, is that older version of the main character and the younger version are the same. So you're basically telling a story in tandem of the young and the old when they're selfish. What I noticed about the young one was that he wanted answers. He didn't want to hear that he would have to move away from everything he's involved with. And he didn't want to believe that everybody's after him, but he's already in that position. So, being already in those positions and everything already ties him down to have to change a lot. So when they're talking during this diner scene, the older version says about the past. It says about his past, which is in the future, where he loses the person he loves and is now coming back to get revenge and stop the people in power. Because a lot of this is about gangs, but it's about the idea of how in the possible future, in a possible universe in the future, that gang members and everything have learned to use time travel. And have used it to manipulate it to where they get people to kill, to be killers, and then they kill those killers eventually and close that loop. That's why it's called Looper. So you loop in time, basically, and kill anybody you want, throw anybody in any place, any vicinity, so that there's no acknowledgement of their existence. Like, how this body come, where this body come from. And you don't have the existence of a person because you throw them into timelines that don't exist in theirs. So, yeah, it's about gangs pretty much. What I noticed was the older version of him just felt like it wasn't worth it anymore. but he put himself in a position where even he admitted in this part of the diner scene that, yeah, you can't run away from these issues. You can't make it seem like, you know, you may want to get away from it, be sponge bathed by the lady that could fix you and take you away from all this stuff, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have those issues come right to your face, kill the person you love, and make you run back to the same lifestyle you were in. Because that selfishness is still ingrained in you, in that sort of path. So if you start off that way, you're going to end that way. In a certain way of saying, like, maybe you're an instant gratification, but maybe you're a person who's traditionalist. I say fuck them both, and then fuck me twice for even saying that shit.